Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're heading out into the solar system, tackling a question that's, well, it's as old as our awareness of other worlds, really. Are we alone? Is life just here on Earth, or could it be thriving elsewhere, maybe even under ice?
It's a fundamental question, isn't it? And it really drives so much exploration.
Exactly. And that drive brings us today to this tiny moon of Saturn, Enceladus. Now, for ages, it was just seen as, another small frozen ball out there,
Pretty unremarkable, honestly.
just another dot in the outer solar system. Very cold, very distant.
Right. But then, oh boy, did things change. Enceladus basically became this huge scientific sensation. It's now one of the absolute top spots we're looking at in the search for life.
It really is. It's kind of turned astrobiology on its head in some ways.
So that's what this deep dive is all about. We're going to explore why. Why this little moon? What did we find? We'll get into the discoveries, the scientific puzzles it presents.
And there are definitely puzzles. Oh, yeah. And also, this really fascinating new way scientists are thinking about how to even look for life there. It's about asking better questions, smarter questions.
A more strategic approach, yeah.
That's it.
Ensuring we learn something significant no matter what.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And we're drawing on a couple of really great sources today. First, there's Mia Booker's piece, Is There Life on Saturn's Moon? Where there's water, there's a chance. It gives us a great handle on the initial buzz and the water discovery.
A really good overview of how Enceladus first grabbed the spotlight.
And then we've got Sarah Stanley's article, Looking for Life on Enceladus. What questions should we ask? This one gets into that new strategic framework, which is, well, it's quite revolutionary, I think.
It really is. It shifts the perspective in a very interesting way. What's so compelling is just how much our ideas about habitable zones have broadened.
How so?
Well, for the longest time, we were kind of stuck on the Goldilocks zone idea, right? Planets like Earth, rocky surface water, just the right distance from their star.
The comfortable neighborhood.
Exactly. But Enceladus, it just blows that wide open. It forces us to think about life potentially popping up in places we never ever considered before. Deep under ice, powered by internal heat, not sunlight.
That's such a key point.
Yeah.
Because when you just look at Enceladus initially, it's tiny, way smaller than our moon, only about 500 kilometers across.
A little snowball, really.
Yeah. And it's covered, completely covered in this bright reflective ice. And it's orbiting Saturn way, way out there, almost 1.5 billion kilometers from the sun.
Seriously, far out.
If you could stand on it, imagine that. Just this vast, white, frozen landscape, blindingly bright maybe, but reflecting such faint sunlight.
Yeah.
And then Saturn hanging huge in the sky.
Spectacular view, but incredibly desolate.
Yeah.
And the cold, unimaginable, really.
Minus 200 Celsius, roughly. I mean, it's the definition of frozen dead world, you'd think. No warmth, no liquid, certainly no activity.
And that's exactly what the scientific consensus was for a long time. Nozer Khawaja, an astrobiologist involved in this research, points out that scientists really used to believe that the whole region beyond Mars was hopeless for the search for life.
Hopeless. That's strong.
Yeah. The thinking was just too cold and to receive too little sunlight. Period. End of story. And understanding that baseline assumption is so important.
Why is that context critical?
Because it shows just how radical the later discoveries were. They didn't just tweak the model, they smashed it. It forced a complete rethink of where the ingredients for life, or even life itself, might be found. It wasn't just about sunlight anymore.
Okay, so set the scene. We have this assumption. Cold, dead, icy moon. Then comes the Cassini spacecraft. An amazing mission orbited Saturn for 13 years.
An incredible workhorse. Sent back so much data.
And some of that data started looking weird.
Yeah.
Something was going on in that ice. The first big clue, the real jaw dropper, came in 2005, right?
That's when it really started. Cassini's instruments picked up these huge jets, fountains of water vapor and ice spewing out from the moon's south pole.
Water jets from a place that cold.
Exactly. Not just a little steam, but massive plumes. It was completely unexpected. A clear sign that Enceladus wasn't this inert snowball after all. That's when Khawaja says it became a minor sensation.
Minor sensation. Yeah, I guess that's one way to put it. For the scientific community, that must have been huge.
Oh, absolutely huge. And these aren't tiny little spurts. We're talking about plumes where water vapor and ice particles are ejected hundreds of kilometers into space.
Hundreds of kilometers. That's enormous.
It is. They erupt from these long cracks near the South Pole. People call them tiger stripes. And the genius of Cassini was it could actually fly through these plumes.
It flew through them, so it could sample them directly.
Precisely. taste the spray, so to speak, without needing to land or drill through miles of ice. The fact that this ocean is actively venting itself into space, that's what really lit the fuse for astrobiologists.
Because it brings in that fundamental idea.
Exactly. The principle Kawaja and others champion: where there is water, life is possible. Suddenly, you have liquid water, potentially warmed from below, shielded by ice. It opens up a whole new potential habitat.
And the heat isn't from the sun, obviously. It's from tidal forces.
That's the leading theory. Saturn's immense gravity constantly squeezes and stretches Enceladus as it orbits. That flexing generates friction, heat, deep inside, keeping the core warm, melting the ice to form an ocean, and lightly powering geological activity like these vents.
Okay, so finding liquid water and water that's actively blasting out into space, that was step one.
Yeah.
Huge step. It proved the moon wasn't dead.
A game changer.
So the next question became obvious, right? If there's water coming out,
Mm-hmm.
what else is in it? What chemicals, what signatures might be hiding in those ice particles?
That's where the story gets even more exciting.
This is where Cassini's sampling ability really paid off then.
Yeah.
Catching those ice particles. Like a cosmic fishing net or something?
Pretty much. And analyzing what was in them, that led to the next major breakthrough. They found not just simple molecules, but large and complex organic carbon-based molecules.
Organic molecules, like the building blocks of life.
Exactly, the fundamental stuff. Carbon is the backbone of life as we know it. Finding complex molecules based on carbon ejected from an alien ocean, that's huge. Kawaja put it pretty plainly. For the first time, we found very large organic molecules in an extraterrestrial ocean.
Wow. So not just methane, but more complex stuff.
Yes, things that suggest a more intricate chemistry is happening down there. Think about amino acids, the components of proteins, or the nucleobases in DNA. We don't know if those specific molecules are there yet, but finding large, complex carbon chains shows the potential is there. The chemistry is capable of building sophistication.
And they found other things too, right? Not just organics.
Absolutely. Cassini also detected things like hydrogen gas, H2, and carbon dioxide, CO2, and even tiny silica nanoparticles.
And why is, say, hydrogen gas important?
Well, finding hydrogen is a really strong pointer towards hydrothermal activity, like deep-sea vents on Earth's ocean floor where hot water reacts with rock. That process releases hydrogen, and crucially, it creates a chemical imbalance.
An imbalance.
Yeah, a state of disequilibrium.
Yeah.
And that imbalance can be used as an energy source by certain kinds of microbes. It's exactly what powers ecosystems around hydrothermal vents here on Earth, completely independent of sunlight. So finding hydrogen suggests Enceladus might have its own energy source for life.
So you've got liquid water, complex organic building blocks, and a potential energy source.
Yeah.
That's ticking a lot of boxes for habitability.
It really is. It's an incredibly compelling picture.
It's just mind-boggling. Yeah. A spacecraft flying through geysers from an alien moon, catching samples of a hidden ocean. It's like getting express delivery from another world.
It's an amazing advantage for exploration. But, and this is a big but, it leads to the central scientific question right now.
Okay, but sketch.
The catch is, do these complex organic molecules mean there's life down there? Or could they be formed by purely geological processes? Kawaja himself points out the alternative. The molecules could have been formed through hydrothermal reactions.
Ah, so chemistry without biology.
Exactly. We know hydrothermal vents on Earth can produce some pretty complex organic molecules through abiotic processes, reactions that don't involve life at all. So finding these molecules on Enceladus is incredibly exciting. It confirms a chemically rich environment.
But it's not definitive proof of life.
Not yet. It could be a biosignature evidence of life, or it could be just a sign of a very active, complex geochemistry that happens to make the ingredients for life. Distinguishing between those two possibilities is the major challenge.
Right. How do you tell the difference between a molecule made by life and one made near where life could be? What are the clues they're looking for?
That's the million-dollar question. And it's precisely what Nozer Kawaja's team in Berlin is trying to figure out right now. They're doing some really clever lab work.
What kind of lab work?
They're basically trying to recreate Enceladus's ocean conditions in the lab. Imagine trying to simulate the immense pressure under miles of ice, the specific temperatures near possible hydrothermal vents, the chemical mix of the water salts, CO2, hydrogen, and even the types of minerals the water might be reacting with.
Wow, building a mini Enceladus ocean on Earth.
Sort of. The goal is to determine which substances could form under conditions similar to those on Enceladus. Can they, through purely abiotic chemical reactions in their simulated ocean, produce the same large, complex organic molecules that Cassini detected?
Okay, I see. If they can make those molecules without any life involved.
Then it weakens the case that the molecules Cassini found must be from life. It suggests that kind of complex chemistry might just happen naturally in that environment.
But if they can't make them easily without biology, or if the molecules made abiotically look subtly different.
Then it strengthens the argument for a biological origin. They're looking for subtle differences. Maybe the handedness of the molecules, known as chirality. Life on Earth strongly prefers one hand over the other for amino acids and sugars. Or maybe specific patterns in the distribution of isotopes. Tiny clues that might betray a biological influence.
It's like chemical forensics on an interplanetary scale.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's play devil's advocate. What if the lab experiments do show that you can make these complex organics without life, just from the geology and chemistry?
Yeah.
Is that disappointing? Does it mean the search is over?
Not at all. In fact, that would be a profoundly important discovery in its own right.
How so?
It would tell us that the universe might be littered with places capable of advanced prebiotic chemistry. Places that can naturally cook up the building blocks of life, even if life itself never actually gets started there. It would mean that the potential for life, the raw ingredients, might be incredibly common.
So even a negative result in terms of finding active life would still tell us something fundamental about cosmic chemistry.
Absolutely. It would help us understand the boundary between complex chemistry and actual biology. It refines our search, makes us look for even more specific signatures, maybe focusing less on just the ingredients and more on the processes or structures life creates. It's all valuable knowledge about how planets work and how far chemistry can go.
Okay. Now, when we talk about finding life, I think a lot of people, maybe influenced by science fiction, immediately picture, aliens, little green men, maybe.
Yeah, the popular image is strong.
But Kawaja is pretty direct about managing expectations here. He says for science fiction fans, he have disappointing news. The search isn't for complex creatures. It's focused squarely on simple life forms like bacteria.
He makes that point very clearly. The idea of little green men inhabiting Enceladus is something people will have to let go of.
Why is that distinction so important? Why focus only on microbes?
Well, several reasons. First, just based on Earth's history, microbial life arose relatively early and dominated the planet for billions of years. Complex life is a much more recent and potentially much rarer phenomenon. So statistically, microbes are just a better bet.
Makes sense. Simpler things are often more common.
Right. And second, the environment itself. While it might be habitable for microbes adapted to cold, dark, high-pressure conditions, it's probably not conducive to large, complex organisms like us. We shouldn't expect Earth-like life in such an un-Earth-like place.
So it's about being realistic and scientifically grounded.
Exactly. But finding even simple, single-celled organisms on Enceladus, that would still be arguably the biggest scientific discovery ever.
Oh, absolutely. Forget little green men. Finding alien bacteria would completely change everything, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Our whole understanding of our place in the cosmos.
It would be monumental. Kawaja suggests it would instantly raise hopes that traces of life might also exist in other places, maybe Mars, Europa, Titan, and that maybe conditions for more complex life could exist elsewhere too.
It shifts life from potentially being a fluke unique to Earth.
You being a potentially widespread phenomenon wherever the conditions are right. It fundamentally changes the odds, you could say.
Okay, so the potential discovery is huge, even if it's just microbes. This leads us to the second article, the one by Sarah Stanley, about how we should search. Because just looking for life seems tricky.
It is tricky, especially when we're dealing with potentially very alien life and trying to distinguish it from complex non-life. This is where Davila and Eigenbrod's proposed strategic research framework comes in. It's published in the Journal of Geophysical Research, Biogeosciences.
And their big idea is to shift the central question we're asking, right?
Exactly. Instead of the simple binary, is Enceladus inhabited, yes or no? They propose asking something broader, more fundamental. What is the extent of organic chemical evolution in Enceladus's ocean?
The extent of organic chemical evolution. Okay, unpack that for us. Why is that a better question?
Well, think about the origin of life on Earth, abiogenesis. It's one of the biggest mysteries because the earliest stages are gone. There aren't well-preserved records from before life originated here. Early life basically ate the evidence of its own creation.
Right. The geological record from that far back is really patchy.
Extremely patchy. But places like Enceladus, They might be frozen in time, chemically speaking. They could represent different stages of this process. Maybe Enceladus is still in a purely chemical phase. Maybe it's on the verge of life. Maybe life arose and died out. Or maybe it never had a chance.
So by studying its chemistry in detail, we could learn about those early steps.
Precisely. This framework allows for deep learning regardless of whether Enceladus is currently inhabited or not. It means we can get a wealth of new clues about how life begins to get off the ground or doesn't. We learn something crucial about the process of chemical evolution, not just the final outcome of life or no life.
That sounds much more scientifically robust. You're guaranteed to learn something important.
Exactly. It removes the pressure of the yes-no and focuses on understanding the underlying chemistry and physics.
So this idea of organic chemical evolution, let's zoom in on that. It's based on the bigger picture of biogenesis, how life arises from non-life.
Yes, it plugs directly into that. The fundamental theory is that life isn't magic. It results from a series of chemical steps that began with the Big Bang. You start with simple elements.
Hydrogen, helium,
Yeah.
forged in the early universe, and stars.
Right. Then stars create heavier elements like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen. These get incorporated into planets and moons. Then, under the right conditions, energy, water, minerals, these simple elements combine to form simple molecules.
Water, ammonia, methane.
Yep. And then the key step. Those simple molecules interact to form increasingly complex molecules. Amino acids, nucleobases, lipids, the building blocks.
The cosmic Lego analogy you mentioned earlier. Bricks combining into more complex structures.
Exactly. And eventually, maybe those complex molecules self-organize, maybe form membranes, start replicating, leading to the first cell. Organic chemical evolution is that whole pathway, from simple atoms to the threshold of life.
And Enceladus might offer a unique window into that pathway because its conditions are so different from early Earth.
Potentially, yes. Early Earth had surface water, volcanic activity, lightning, UV radiation from the sun, all contributing to the chemical mix. Enceladus has none of that surface activity.
It's all happening deep down in the dark ocean.
Right. The energy likely comes from those hydrothermal vents we talked about. The chemistry is driven by water-rock interactions at the seafloor, maybe fueled by the tidal heating. The pressure is immense. There's no sunlight.
So the chemical reactions, the specific molecules formed, the rate at which things happen, it could all be very different.
It could be a completely different chemical recipe than Earth's. Maybe it gets stuck at a certain complexity level. Maybe it favors different types of molecules. By studying it, we get a comparative case study for abiogenesis, a different path, maybe a stalled path, maybe an active one.
Which leads to how future missions should be designed based on this framework. It's not just fly through the plumes and look for DNA, right?
Not at all. It's more methodical. The framework suggests missions should not search only for direct evidence of life. That's a key shift.
So what's the first step then?
The first step is to thoroughly characterize what we already suspect is there, to determine the molecular and structural properties of the complex carbon-containing molecules Cassini gave us hints of.
Really nail down what those molecules are. Their size, shape, structure, chirality.
Exactly. Get a detailed chemical inventory of the ocean as sampled by the plumes. Understand the non-biological baseline chemistry as best we can. What is this environment capable of producing without life?
Okay, build the foundation first. Then what?
Then, supplemental studies could search for more complex organic compounds with biochemical properties. Things that look even more like life's building blocks, maybe lipids that could form membranes, or molecules showing specific catalytic activity.
Getting closer to the functions of life.
Right. And also looking for cell-like objects, maybe tiny vesicles or compartments, and any signs of evolutionary adaptation, like patterns suggesting selection or optimization is occurring, even if it's just chemical.
It sounds like peeling an onion layer by layer, getting closer to the core question of life, by gathering crucial data at every step.
That's the idea. It's described as a lower risk but high reward strategy.
Lower risk because you don't have to find life to succeed.
Precisely. You're guaranteed to learn fundamental things about planetary chemistry, ocean worlds, and the potential for life's origins, even if Enceladus itself turns out to be sterile today. The mission isn't a failure if the answer to "is there life" is no.
And high reward. Because if life is there, this systematic approach is probably the best way to find convincing evidence for it, by ruling out the non-biological alternatives first.
Exactly. As Davila and Eigenbrod state, if life exists, this approach would help us find it. If not, we'd learn far more than if we just looked for life. It moves beyond the simple yes-no to a much deeper understanding.
So let's push that thought. If we do this, and we find, say, incredibly complex organic molecules, maybe even things that self-assemble into spheres or layers, but we don't find active replicating life. What does that tell us?
That would be fascinating. It might tell us that the path from complex chemistry to actual biology is harder or requires more specific conditions than we thought. Maybe there's a bottleneck, a critical step that Enceladus hasn't achieved.
Like a missing ingredient, or maybe not enough time, or the wrong energy gradient.
Could be any of those. It might reveal that creating life's building blocks is relatively easy in these environments, but assembling them into a functioning, evolving system is the real hurdle. Or perhaps Enceladus shows us a type of complex chemical system that looks like it's on the verge of life, but just isn't. It teaches us about the boundaries.
A cosmic laboratory showing us a road not taken, perhaps.
A perfect way to phrase it. It would provide invaluable context for understanding life's origins here on Earth by showing us what else is possible chemically and maybe what steps are absolutely crucial for the jump to biology.
Wow, okay, that brings us towards the end of this really mind-expanding deep dive. We've gone from seeing Enceladus as just another frozen moon
Pretty unremarkable, yeah.
to discovering this hidden, active ocean blasting water and chemicals into space, then finding complex organic molecules in those plumes.
The very ingredients for life.
And now, arriving at this really sophisticated strategy for future exploration. One that focuses not just on finding life, but on understanding the entire process of chemical evolution that might lead to it, or stop just short.
It really highlights how science progresses, doesn't it? We make a discovery, it raises new questions, we refine our methods, we ask deeper questions. It's a continuous cycle.
It's not just about the destination, finding life or not, but the journey, learning about the universe and these incredible worlds along the way. Enceladus has already taught us so much.
Absolutely. It's reshaped our understanding of habitable zones and the potential for chemistry in the outer solar system. It shows science adapting, becoming more nuanced in its approach.
So the final thought for you, our listeners, what does all this mean? If Enceladus does hold clues about how life begins, whether it succeeded there or not, what does that tell us about Earth? Are we incredibly lucky, a rare exception?
Or is the universe perhaps full of these chemical laboratories, these ocean worlds, constantly running experiments in abiogenesis? Maybe life, or at least its complex chemical precursors, is far more common than we ever dared to imagine.
It forces you to look up at the night sky differently, doesn't it? Thinking about these hidden oceans, these dynamic little worlds,
Yeah.
and wondering what secrets they're still keeping. It truly changes our perspective. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.